Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alyx King and Bill G. Today is Tuesday, April the 23rd, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London, and 10 p.m. in Sydney, Australia. I actually checked it this time. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. I'm happy that we're here doing our SRT thing again. Bill, you have turned me into, I'm not sure if I'm a big supporter of it yet, but I am interested in it now in a way that when we first interviewed about it back in, when was it? November, December, something like that.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, my reaction was like, oh, okay, well, this is another one of those kind of out there spiritual practices. Let's see what Bill has to say. At least I know Bill, so I know what his credibility is, even if I don't believe in this SRT thing. Now I'm giving it some thought that actually there's something to it. Especially since I've been messing around with a pendulum on my own and finding you actually get consistency out of it, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now you figured out the reason why you bought the book.
Well, not entirely. No, I can't say that. That would actually be a bit of a stretch. What I have figured out is that there's something to this.
Right.
Beyond that, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But hey, something to this, that's a big step for me. So, and you've been leading us along, helping Alyx too. And Alyx, how much has this actually helped? I mean, it's been fun, and we've delved into some stuff. And you were saying that a lot of the stuff you developed, you discovered already through therapy and so forth. But how much does this actually help? You think?
I would say a good amount. I've been not so much on the sleep side, but getting a lot of great ideas while I'm up not doing anything.
Okay. Well, hey, that's progress. Progress is progress. That's the bottom line. You're making progress. Yeah. Now, it'd be great if we can have a breakthrough where you get more sleep, because you really need the sleep, even though you do very well without it. But you'd definitely be better off with sleep, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that, and actually, that was our surface layer stuff. That, the insomnia is a symptom of the larger issue. And so before we can get into the, we can address the symptom, you need to address the root cause, which is what we're working on.
Mm-hmm. And that's important. That's very, very important. And now in my own exploration of this stuff, I've actually gotten some pretty consistent results out of using a pendulum, which is good. I mean, I'm just like at beginner level. So can I get a yes whenever I say that the president of the United States is Donald Trump, and I get a yes? Good. Okay. Well, that's consistent. I like that,
Yeah.
Although I did run into an issue on Sunday, and I'm not convinced it's actually gone yet, where sometimes I think I've got all the preliminary questions asked and so forth, and then I'll ask the basic question. Okay, so now am I in contact with my higher self? And I'll get no. I'm like, okay, well, who am I in contact with? And then I get some strange answers, and then I start doing some other test questions, and the test questions produce some bizarre results. I'm thinking, okay, well, why is it that I get such a consistent result over here, and then all of a sudden I'm getting these wacky results? And so I texted you a message about that, and you said, well, that's something that you need help clearing from a second person. So, okay. So tell me, what do we do?
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, there's a couple of things. The first thing you need to do is you need to check your ego.
Okay.
So because you're not that ego.
No, not that one.
Oh my God.
Your ego. And actually, this is a great topic in and of itself, in that the ego is the part of yourself that is yourself. It's your that self dialogue. It's your personal beliefs. It's your own personal sense of morality, right and wrong, based off of your current life path.
Okay.
So these are things that you've built up during your lifetime. These are lessons from your parents, your community, and that sort of thing. And those have a tendency to get in the way of doing this kind of work, because again, you're trying to contact with your higher self. You're trying to get divine inspiration, which isn't constrained by things like societal norms, culture, and that sort of thing. So when you find yourself getting inconsistent results with the pendulum, the first thing you need to do is you need to use a number chart, which is I think you have in the Freedom Path book. There's a chart 2, and it's got like numbers on it.
Right. Yep.
And so and if you don't have it in front of you, if you don't have a number chart in front of you, you can make a simple number chart with 0 being on your extreme left and 100 being on your extreme right. And then you hold the pendulum above it, and you either imagine or you write down all the numbers in between. And then you ask the question, hi self, what is the percentage of my ego right now? And it's going to give a number. Okay? What you're going for is less than 3%.
Okay.
So if it's any number higher than 3%, then your ego is too strong. And the problem that you run into when your ego is too strong is that the questions that you ask are going to be fed by the ego and not by high self.
And how do you correct that?
And you correct that by telling high self, all right, please reduce my ego down to less than 3%. And you use the circular motion for the clearing. All right, reduce my ego down to less than 3%. And if it's still not getting there, then we move on to step 2.
Well, before you go to step 2, I'm a little curious because it's my ego. I would think I'd be the one who's doing the reduction, but it's not my physical me that's doing it. It's my higher self me, which is an interesting thing.
Well, higher self is you.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not my conscious mind is what I'm saying. I'm not consciously reducing ego.
You want to consciously reduce ego.
Oh, I do.
You do that by also letting go of results.
Ah, okay.
You say, and that's the other thing too, because your ego is interested in results.
Yes.
If you want to say, Spirit, am I going to be a multimillionaire? And you really, really want to be a multimillionaire. You're going to get a yes.
Yeah, sure.
Or another thing is, in my book, I describe when you're using the pendulum to make major purchases. And you go to the auto dealership, and you're looking at that sports car, and then you're looking at the family car, and then you think to yourself, "Hey, Spirit, what car should I get?"
It's a variation of my favorite story along the same lines, but go ahead.
Right. So you're if you allow your ego to control the pendulum, your ego will control the pendulum, and you're going to get inconsistent results because of it, because your ego wants what it wants. And again, you need to put that aside and say to the pendulum, say to the high self, all right, I want to reduce my ego down to less than 3%. It's nearly impossible to get it down to 0 because otherwise you wouldn't be alive. But less than 3%. So that way you let go of the results. You say to the universe, whatever the answer is the answer. And I'm not going to worry about what the results are. This is also handy for when you're, considering if you're going to take a job, major purchases and that sort of thing too, because the more your ego gets in the way of those particular questions, the less consistent your result's going to be. And if you can't get your ego down to less than 3%, then you need to do the phone a friend thing, because you are way too attached to the result of that question. And a independent third party who has absolutely no interest in whether or not you get the sports car or the family sedan will be able to give you a more objective response, because they'll be able to connect to your high self, and then be able to give you the right answer.
Now, the word ego is kind of a slippery word. It gets defined a lot of different ways. How exactly are we defining it here? It sounds like we're defining really what the physical me wants in life. That's the ego as we seem to be talking about.
That's the one we're talking about in this particular instance. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's really straightforward then. So
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, when you're running into other problems, you're still getting inconsistent results. You've worked on reducing your ego. Then on chart 23 comes up, the soul is lying. On chart 5, you have the negative motivation of self-punishment. And on chart 28, we have personal items and clear memory impingements. And so
I got to go back for a second. The soul is lying. I mean, I was laughing at that, but
Yeah.
the soul, our soul lies like ourselves. Is that what you mean?
it can lie, yes. The soul can lie. And it lies to protect itself. And in
Well,
this
most people do.
in this particular case, the soul is protecting a self-punishment program.
Ah,
Mhm.
okay.
So the self-punishment program is to give strength to the ego. Because if you're consistently getting ego that is too strong, then your subconscious is afraid of the result. And if it's afraid of the result, it's punishing itself.
So is the soul in this instance the equivalent of the subconscious? Because we already defined the ego as being what the physical body wants, the physical being wants. What is the soul here?
The soul is now again, we got personal items and whatever. This is, again, part of your personal soul package.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the personal soul package is that you don't really want to know the results, an honest results or a high self result in this particular case. And so, because it likes punishing itself, it's a comfortable place. A lot of times we hold on to our pain because it's a comfortable place to be.
We're a masochistic lot, aren't we?
We are a masochistic lot. and I mean, you think about it, you're like, why would anybody want to do that? Or are we being masochists here? In a sense we are, but we're doing this because it's comfortable. Our pain, we get comfortable with our pain because the idea of being outside of that pain and choosing a more expansive existence is very, very scary for a lot of people. It frightens that ego, because the ego likes consistency. The ego likes things to be the same all the time because the ego likes to be comfortable.
It's like the old cliche, better the devil you know than the one you don't know.
Exactly. And so what we need to do is we need to clear memory impingements. Now, a memory impingement is all of those memories that you have built up throughout your lifetime, convincing you that your pain is exactly where you need to be. I need to be in pain because of blah, 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 because, my dad didn't love me, so therefore I deserve this pain, whatever. These are things that you build up throughout your lifetime, to these like walls that we put around ourselves. And again, it's all part of a self-punishment program. I'm punishing myself because I'm undeserving for whatever reason. And the soul, in this case, will then start lying to you in order to protect that program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem we run into here is that if the soul's lying to you, it's going to be very difficult. You're like, is that clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
Clear.
Sure.
Yes. Yes. And I got a bridge to sell you too.
Yeah, right.
So that's when you have to call it a phone a friend at this point. So when you're going to need help, when you are getting inconsistent results, you're doing your test questions and whatever, and it's like, is the sky blue? And you're getting a no, and you're like, oh, okay, no, that's not right. And so you're doing, and this is very important for people who are first starting out, and even you run into this with some veterans as well. Some veteran SRT people or dowsers also run into this problem whenever they're diving deeper and deeper and deeper into their own programs, and then you just find that nerve that the soul's like, I ain't going to get rid of that one because you've dug a little too deep here, and then you start getting inconsistent results, and then you phone a friend. Now, phoning a friend is easy. I'll show you how to, I'll tell you what to do. If you can't call me, you can always call me.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you don't want to call me, if you go on the Spiritual Response Association's website, it's SRA, I'm sorry, it's not SRA, it's spiritualresponse.com. They have a listing there of certified consultants and teachers, and they also have a phone-in line.
No kidding.
Yes,
Wow.
sure do. They have a 24/7 manned phone.
24/7.
24/7 phone.
Oh my goodness.
This is hilarious.
Where we have certified consultants on the phone all the time. They charge $1 a minute, and you call them up and tell them what you need cleared, and then they'll do it for you.
I love it. That's great.
Wow.
1-800 SRT. No, it's not a 1-800 SRT. The number is actually on the website. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
But it's not a 900 number, right? I mean,
It's
here in
not
the
a
United
900
States,
number.
a 900 number has very definite associations with it. So
No, it's not a 900 number.
good.
So what we do is, now that we've discovered what those things are, your friend will then clear them for you, and then you then start asking your test questions again to make sure that you're clear. We have to make sure that our ego is down to less than 3%. We have to make sure that we are receiving our information from high self and no other source. And we have to make sure that our high self committee consists of the lowest number for the maximum benefit, and that they are receiving their information from the highest level on chart 3, which is the new paradigm above radiant love.
Now I've got a question here, because one of those key aspects there is asking, am I working with a high self?
Right.
If it's possible for the soul to lie, how do you know that you can trust the answer?
That's why, and I brought that up earlier, is that's why you got to get a friend on that case. Because
but even if you're just testing because you're not sure, how can you be sure?
Again, if you're getting inconsistent results,
It's the inconsistency. Okay.
it's the inconsistency. So when you're getting inconsistent results, and you believe that you've gotten your ego down, and you believe you're getting from high self, you're getting all that right, and you're still getting inconsistent results, that's when you need to phone a friend.
Okay, got it. Okay. Well, cool. Well, thank you for clearing that stuff up. That's good. And you did it even without actually. Well, I think you waved your pendulum around a little bit, but
I did wave my pendulum.
I think that was just for the fun of it more than anything.
No, actually, I was actually clearing.
Oh, you were? Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So after we get off the call, you can try again and see how.
Yeah. No, I'll be trying it later on today for sure.
Yep.
So, but anyway, this day is the last few days of Tuesdays is devoted to helping Alyx. So let's mop the floor with Alyx. No, that's not right. How do I say this?
No, I would not want to ruin that beautiful hair of yours.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, all right. So what I was planning on doing today is going to a chart. It's actually the last chart, chart 32, which is called checklist. And the purpose of checklist is to do a process which we call mop-up. Now, mop-up is, the reason why we call it mop-up is we generally do the mop-up after the first or second sessions. And the purpose is to take all of this flying energy all over the place, because we've especially when you start digging down. I mean, imagine for a moment you are digging a hole, and you're digging a hole in your backyard, and for the purpose of figuring out what's underneath there, and you made a nice big hole, and you found where the problem was. Say you got a broken water pipe or conduit or whatever. You're fixing that, and then you put the dirt on there, but your yard is now a mess. You've got dirt all over the place.
Right.
The purpose of mop-up is to clean all that up, plant some new grass seed, make it look pretty again.
So we're restoring the landscaping.
We're restoring the landscaping.
All right.
So what we do is we go to chart 32, And generally, mop-up can be done in 5 seconds, or it can take an hour, depending on what needs to be mopped up. You first ask the question, does Alex need mop up today? And I'm getting a yes response, which is good. If it said no, we were going to do it anyway because, we're doing this today.
Right.
but we're getting a yes, so that's great.
Okay.
So it's a fairly complicated chart with lots of stuff on it. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask what do we need to look at first? Okay. So it's going to something we call group 6. Now, there are groups of paragraphs which are messages from spirit. These were written by Robert back in the day. And so there's a group 1 through group 6 portion of the chart. And there are subparts to this chart, which points us to an individual paragraph. So we got group 6, and we're going to look at paragraph 2. So group 6, paragraph 2. So let's look that up. All right. Group 6, where are we?
I can see the advantage to having a 3-ring notebook over a perfect bound book because of all the page turning you have to do.
Oh, absolutely. So group 6, paragraph 2. Of course, it's a long one, so I'll read that. All right. So, erroneous soul beliefs block the receiving of greater good. So what I generally do is I will read the paragraph to the client because the words itself, as I'm reading them, are part of the download that you're now going to be receiving.
Okay.
Okay? Everything that is experienced by a person, every thought and emotion, while in the physical body, goes from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind where it is stored. Changes and additions, if the person is open and flexible, are constantly being made in the information recorded in the subconscious. When the soul leaves the body at the termination of physical life, the information in the subconscious is downloaded into the soul records. Erroneous soul beliefs are established by the soul after the person has experienced a physical death. The soul has not gone into the spiritual realms, but is still attached to the physical body. And anything they think or feel goes directly into the soul and not into the soul records. They are erroneous beliefs and are difficult to dislodge. When the soul goes directly into the spiritual realms at the time of leaving the physical body, negative thoughts or emotions are not set up, as the soul realizes that the experiences of the physical life was all an illusion and simply part of the learning experiences that the soul chose. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question that keeps going through my mind, and maybe this is, I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up or not, but I'll bring it up because you're talking about soul records.
Okay.
In the reading I've done of the Freedom Path and slightly in the second book, the Soul Recreation book, I get the impression that most of what we're doing with this stuff is erasing soul records. And yet I also have some sense that soul records are important. I kind of equate it with rewriting the subconscious mind. It's kind of similar to that. Okay, so if that is true, where does all that fit into what Alex is getting right now from this reading that you're doing? Because the reading seems to be talking about how the soul records almost don't even matter. So what's the deal here? What are we trying to accomplish with soul records?
What we're trying to accomplish with soul records is to inform the larger oversoul, the source energy, the experiences that we have as physical beings. Because as non-physical beings, non-physical beings don't have the same experiences as physical beings. They don't experience contrast as much as physical beings do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of what they're learning here. So in this particular instance, all of Alyx's experiences are going into her soul records, but there are also erroneous soul beliefs that are also getting put into the soul record.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's an erroneous soul belief?
An erroneous soul belief is something that it does not benefit source energy.
Okay.
This is a soul belief that, I'm always supposed to be in pain. I'm always supposed to have, there are the soul beliefs that I am sick, I want to be sick, that sort of thing. Things we started clearing with the brain restructuring.
Mm-hmm.
So these erroneous soul beliefs then end up in the soul records. And
when you say it doesn't benefit soul energy or source energy, rather, source and source energy and the beings of source energy are all about diving into the contrast. So that is part of what we're doing here. And yet, and there's a certain benefit to that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. The benefit is described by Abraham as growth. So that's where the growth comes from. So how is it that these undesired things are erroneous? How is it that they are not needed by source?
What it's doing is it's preventing the download, because the erroneous soul beliefs attaches the soul to the physical body too much. And so and it says here that erroneous soul beliefs are established by the soul after the person has experienced physical death. The soul has not gone into the spiritual realms, but is attached to the physical body, and anything they think or feel goes directly into the soul and not into the soul records.
And that's important. Well, I still don't understand why that's an important distinction.
Well, it's an important distinction because the soul records are what gets transmitted to source, but what stays with the soul is karma. And so if you have soul beliefs that attach too much to the soul, then you need to come back in another lifetime to to try and resolve those.
Mm-hmm.
What we want to do is we want to lighten the soul. We want we want to have a smooth transition from one lifetime to the next, so we're not repeating the same things over and over again.
Right.
And we want losing my train of thought here. We want negative thoughts and emotions to not be part of the overall soul record.
So when we're saying that soul records are transmitted to source energy, we're saying that has happened after the physical us has experienced the contrast and said, I like this, I don't like that.
Right.
And that's why, since the choice has already been selected one way or another by the physical being, that's why the negative part, the part that the being rejected as uninteresting or not worthy or whatever it might be, by the time that choice has been made, source energy doesn't need that information anymore. And that's why we don't really want to transmit it.
Right. Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Now it's starting to make some sense to me. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes any sense to the listenership, but at least it's beginning to make some sense to me.
Yeah. This is heavy stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like going to a sporting event and not having a program and not knowing who the players are or what they're doing or anything. Like, okay, so what's happening out there in the field? I don't understand.
Just sit back and enjoy the game.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, they're running down this way. Now they're running down this way.
Hey, and everybody's cheering. Something great happened.
Something must have happened. Goal!
Goal! Okay, so next, I'm going to We just, all right. I'm now, and now I'm going to clear it, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Is there something else we need to do on here? Yes. All right. Okay. Also on this chart, beyond the groups of items, they also have different healing modalities.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what's cool about this is you can take it one of two ways. You can say, this other healing modality is something I should try.
Mm-hmm.
But what Robert would often say is, you don't necessarily need to learn about it or try it. We can simply download it from source.
Oh, cool.
And we can put it right, and we can put it right into your auric field and be done with it. My wife does this sometimes too. Actually, she does this every day because years ago she had her thyroid removed, and so she takes an Armour thyroid. You know, she takes an artificial thyroid hormone in order to live.
Right.
Now, but the tricky thing about a thyroid medication is getting the balance right.
Yep.
Because your body needs more or less of it depending on the day.
Yep.
And so what she started doing is she started using the pendulum and saying, okay, Spirit, make sure that I am receiving the exact right amount of thyroid hormone. I mean, she's still taking her prescription. This is not to say you can do this in lieu of taking a prescription.
Right.
She's still taking her prescription, but she is telling Spirit, make sure that my body has the exact right amount in the right proportions. And she does this for her vitamins. She does this for her, the minerals in her body, because again, the thyroid hormone also works with your calcium levels. It works with your salt levels and whatever. And if any of that is out of balance, you're having a bad day.
Yep. That's a fact.
So what she does is she uses the pendulum, says, okay, Spirit, make sure that all of my vitamins and minerals and my thyroid hormone are all in perfect balance for today. And since she started doing that, she has a lot more good days than she has bad days. So, it's a way of using this for physical medicine is also as well as this. So let's take a look. What came up was homotoxicology.
Okay.
Homotoxicology. Homotoxicology is another form used in SRT. It's a process in and of itself. So what we can do is, rather than going through that entire protocol, we simply ask Spirit to clear everything on the form, or you can work with the form. And again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it today and going through the form because it's a complicated form. It's kind of like with the brain restructuring. Brain restructuring is also on this form, also on this checklist thing as well, and we know how long that takes. It can take up to sometimes more than an hour just to do that one protocol.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do that. We can simply tell Spirit, please download everything on that form or everything within that protocol, and keep it as a placeholder, and that we can go back to it when we have the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to do here.
Okay.
Because the Spirit does recognize that we are sometimes on a time constraint.
That's good to know. It's actually a pretty cool trick considering they don't actually experience time, so good for them.
Right. Well, when I first started doing this work, I would sit down with a client for an hour. We would schedule an hour, and I'd be with them for 2.5 hours. And I'd be like, wow, just rabbit holes and rabbit holes. And then I talked to my teacher about it, and she's like, why did you do that? You don't need to do that. You can simply, in those instances where you need to go down various rabbit holes, you say, okay, spirit clear for now, put a placeholder in that one, make a note in your log, and then when you come back to them the next time, then you start there, rather than sitting there, keeping them there for hours and hours. It's not necessary.
Right.
Now you could schedule yourself for a few hours,
Mhm.
but it's heavy energy work, though. A lot of people who do this work experience what we call the energy work side effects, and it can be exhausting.
Yeah.
Nina was at she does these shamanic retreats where she does shamanic initiation, and it was a 3-day seminar, and she was processing for over 3 weeks.
Wow.
Just, things coming up, because when you do energy work, when you're clearing old stuck patterns, especially ones that have been there for a long time, memories come up, strange dreams come up, and just a general release, because you're going into territory that your body held on to that stuff for a very, very long time for what it believed to be a very good reason. And on a microcellular level, it causes toxins to build up. And so when you release them, when you start putting in new patterns and new healthy patterns, and the cells say, yay, I can get rid of these toxins. Well, you're going to feel like crap for a few days as your body starts to filter out all of those toxins.
I experienced that over the weekend just through some of my minor early testing of how all this stuff works. I was just exploring just basically how am I feeling at this particular moment in time, just playing with that a little bit. And after getting myself, I was actually climbing the Abraham emotional guidance scale. I got myself up to the top level of the scale, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I just felt this need to go lie down, and I did something I never do. I'm not a nap taker. I laid down and took a 4-hour nap. I was that wiped out by it. It really surprised me. It's like, what was that about? But I think you just explained it.
Yeah.
Now also, Susie has a question from our live stream audience. She says, do you ask if the clearing is right for the body, mind, spirit clearing?
Yes, that is part of the process. I don't know what else to say about that. That's part of the mop-up process.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's what we have right now. So
all right, excellent. All right. So we got the homeotoxicology done. So let's see. Is there something else to look at? Where there is, show me. All right. So now it goes to alpha to omega. Alpha to omega is when we go to chart 3 and we work our way up the soul emotional scale, the soul's emotional scale, which is where we start off with, we find out where Alyx's soul is right now, residing on the levels of soul consciousness. What we want is for Alyx's soul consciousness to be above the in the new paradigm above radiant love, which is as high as it goes. So we first figure out where she is. And again, this is another whole protocol. Let me see. Where is she right now? Is it on page 1 or page 2? Page 1. Okay, so we're at this level right now. And then we ask, what is blocking her at this level? That is on on chart 13. So on chart 13, which is programs before creation, we are seeing that we have an imprint of brain damage, which is something that's come up before. So you're stuck at that level because of an imprint of brain damage. We're simply going to clear it. and let that be clear. And that's done, 100%. Then we go back to chart 3, and then we ask the question, where is she now? Page 1, page 2, still on page 1, where are we now? We are here, and again, what we would do is we would go through that whole thing again, making and just where you stuck, what's in the way. We find out what chart you are in the way. We clear it. Now where are you? And we just go up and up and up. And the way the alpha to omega clearing works generally is, if you think about it as your soul is heading to heaven. And in order to get to heaven, you need to go past the pearly gates, and St. Peter's there. Or, if you're going to follow the Egyptian model, Anubis is there with the heart and the scales. Mm-hmm. And if your heart is nice and light, then you get on to the afterlife. If your heart is heavy, then you get fed to the dogs. Now, we're not going to feed you to the dogs today. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to figure out what it is that is making your heart heavy. And that's how it works, because we have this impression, especially as we are working our way up to ascension, that all of our experiences we need to take with us. And included with the lessons, we want to hold on to the memories as well. I have a client who is, he's an older client, and he's very concerned that when he dies, he's going to forget everything, and his memories are very precious to him. And I keep telling him that his memories are not relevant. Yes, when we do past life research, there's a reason why we don't remember those past lives from a day to day to day thing, because we have had hundreds of those lifetimes, and our squishy brains can't hold all of those memories.
Squishy.
And then on top of that, it doesn't really serve us to have all those individual day-to-day memories.
I'm curious to know, and if you'd be divulging too much here, then don't answer the question, but I'm curious to know why he thinks it's so important to hang on to those memories.
Well, because he believes that they're important. He believes that they are part of his heritage. I mean, he's, when you're building a life, we value our memories. We especially the good ones, and even the bad ones. We had struggles in our lives that make us the person we are today. I'm the man that I am today because of my struggles. And I want to hold on to those memories, and I think they're so important. I want to take them to the next level of my ascension. And Spirit says, no, you don't need to.
Right.
You don't need to. You've learned the lesson. You have enlightened your soul. And so you don't need to take the memories with you. All they are is burdens. They are your baggage. And so with the alpha to omega clearing, we're saying, let go of your baggage. Just keep the lesson.
Does the alpha to omega clearing then replace the client wanting to change that evaluation, that he wants to hang on to the
right? It usually does. It usually does, because after you're done the alpha to omega clearing and you've cleared every one of them, and again, you're with the client, so you're describing each of those pieces of baggage they're holding on to, and then you clear them, and they're like, wow, that I didn't realize that I was holding on to that so much, and they usually feel a great burden has been lifted from them, and then they go home and have a good cry. And
that's interesting, though, because from a philosophical viewpoint, I guess you could call it, like if comparing this to Abraham, with Abraham, it's what you focus on, what you think about is the most powerful vibration in your life. Somebody else can send you positive, or even they can even attempt to send negative vibrations, toward you, but ultimately you have to align with that. And and you're the one who's in control, you're the one who has the biggest impact and so forth. But this is basically saying that this alpha to omega process is actually more powerful than your will.
Well, your will is to hold on to it. And so what we're saying is you need to let go of that. And also will is sometimes confused with ego.
Okay. You
Well,
have to elaborate on that. I'm not sure what your point is.
Sometimes people get ego confused with will. Will is your volition, is your desire to take action, and some people equate that with the ego, because the ego wants what it wants, and whether or not it's good for it or not, and so sometimes those two get confused.
Yeah, I don't see where that addresses my point, though, because my point is that regardless of whether you're doing it through ego or through will or through just I feel ornery today, what you're focusing on is what you're going to get most of. And you're the one who's doing the focusing. You can't have someone else doing the focusing for you. So how is it that a process of clearing can override what you're deciding to focus on, for whatever reason?
Well, yeah, and you're also... This is relieving burdens. These are relieving the things that you don't necessarily want, the things you would prefer not to have, but you think you want.
Yeah, well, you're still vibrating to it, though. That's,
yes, you are. Yeah, yes.
It's the vibration part that I'm trying to understand. How is it that a process can override a vibration?
Well, what we're doing is we're informing the soul how to vibrate to the higher level.
So you're kind of going through a back channel and talking the person out of that particular vibration and get into another vibration.
Right, yes.
Okay, all right. Because I couldn't see how you could override the vibration. That's what.
No, because the vibration is the vibration.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right, that makes more sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'm learning something here too. You know?
Yeah, this is basically a more interventionist form of what Abraham teaches.
It is a more interventionist form of what Abraham teaches, because, and again, I think that's why it's relevant to bring it up on a show like this, is because a lot of people, yes, Abraham is very clear about what you need to do in order to raise your vibration. But if you've got a subconscious block or a soul block that is preventing you from even knowing what you want, or being able to let go of the pain to the point where you can get yourself on that emotion, to get that emotional scale going, because you're so stuck in something that you can't figure out what it is. That's why this process is so important, to be able to get help to intervene on those parts that your subconscious just wants to hold on to it, that is preventing you from bringing in the vibration of to allow law of attraction to even work.
But most importantly, it requires the cooperation of the subject.
Absolutely.
You can't do this. For instance, you wouldn't be able to use this kind of a clearing operation on somebody who was close to it. It wouldn't work.
No, it wouldn't work. In fact, some people, some people come to me and, could you clear my spouse? And the answer is, well, really, no. Not unless they want it.
Yeah, it's like it depends.
Right. I mean, I can clear the energy that you are processing from that other person.
Yes, sure.
Because we can do it on one side. But if you're like living with a toxic person who's constantly pushing your buttons and whatever, using this process, we can remove the buttons from you, but it's not going to stop the person from trying to press them.
All right, so now I'm going to really go out on the edge of this discussion a little bit. I'm going to ask a question that this kind of parallels questions you see on Facebook a lot, especially among novices who are still not really understanding all this stuff. But it's a very much of a leading edge question, and that is, let's assume for the sake of discussion that you have person A, and you know person A in some way, and they're important to you, and they're going through something. They're going through some difficult thing, and you want to help them. If person A doesn't know that you're going to try to help them, can you, for instance, clear some soul records for them without their knowledge?
You can't clear their soul records without their knowledge. But what you
Aha, there's a
can
key
do,
point.
but what you can do is you can enlist help for them to help them find the way to want this clearing done. And you can do that by recruiting guardian angels and spirit guides and whatever to come to them for their aid.
So basically making the opportunity available.
Make the opportunity available.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So, Alyx, you've been very quiet.
That's because I've been dominating her. That's what it is.
Taking it all in.
Okay. Just want to make sure you're still there. There you
Yep,
are.
I'm live.
You're live. Okay. So I'm going to ask one more question since, let's see, do we have anything more to look at for the mop-up? We are done with your mop-up. So
Yay.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, make sure that we have caught anything that we've missed. Any what we call, what are they, strings, or what are they, loose threads.
Mm-hmm.
That we tie up any loose threads, and that we ask Spirit to make sure that your that everything that we've done sticks,
Mm-hmm.
and that and that's it. Now, have you? I'm going to put you on the spot here and just ask you: has, besides the increase in creativity and whatever, have you experienced any other kinds of changes that you've noticed since we've started this work?
Abundance and opportunities.
Okay, so you've noticed new opportunities coming your way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and do you think the new opportunities were because you're now more open to them?
I guess, yeah, because I am taking them under consideration. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you, and emotionally, how have you been feeling? Have you been feeling more joy, or you've been feeling less anxiety? How's that been going along?
Same anxiety, but definitely vibrating a little higher.
Okay. Are you finding yourself thinking about more possibilities in your life?
Yes.
Than you did before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you elaborate?
Let's see. Well, okay, for instance, I got an email from a stand-up production company that is in my area that is looking for comedians.
Excellent.
So I'm taking that into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
My mother wanted me to look into doing voiceover work. So I signed up with a company called voice.com, and my agency called me and gave me some scripts to record for my profile. So I'm doing that on top of working on The Grass is Greener. So yeah, lots of stuff.
All right. Very good. Very good.
That is good. Now, the one big elephant in the room that has not had the big progress is the insomnia, the sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And I think we don't know for sure what's going to come out of this because we're now finishing today. This is like this, it's sort of like a broken up, because we do it on a weekly basis, but it's this broken up series of sessions we've done, and with the main purpose of trying to address that. So maybe it's a little bit early to look for a result there.
Mm-hmm.
But let's assume, just for the sake of discussion, that she ends up finding no real change in her sleep pattern, say by like a week from now or something like that.
Okay.
What does that tell us? What does this mean? It doesn't work? Does it mean we have to do it again? Does it mean that we haven't gone at it the right way? What does it mean?
What it could mean is that there are things we haven't explored yet. There's some more rabbit holes that we haven't gone down yet.
Mm-hmm.
It could mean that the insomnia itself is serving a larger purpose. It could be that the insomnia is not necessarily a bad thing. that you this is something that you actually put on your soul path in order to spark greater creativity. That it actually is serving you in some way. And that's something that we explored on the first day. Is there a benefit to this? And the answer was yes, there was some benefit to it. But if we didn't address the other things blocking, then it was going to cause major health problems down the line.
Right.
Yeah.
So now the fact that it hasn't been, it hasn't really changed at all, even though we've done the work, but there have been other areas in your life that have changed, then, we can say that perhaps the insomnia is simply a symptom of something else. I mean, you said you're on a number of medications, right?
Yep.
So it could be that the insomnia is simply a side effect of the combination of medications. And in that case, clearing a soul record is not going to do a whole lot of good there because your physical body is being affected by this. If you were completely clean of all of your medications, then we could possibly see some results. Because I do run into that on occasion too. If I'm seeing a client who's taking a mood enhancer or is taking a antidepressant and whatever, and we're discussing their depression, well, they're feeling fine right now. And while they're still on the medication, the imperative to address on a soul level that particular condition is a lot less.
Right.
We really truly need to be at the in a crisis state sometimes in order to address our problems. And if it's being addressed some other way, pharmacologically or through psychotherapy or whatever, then the imperative isn't there. And so, yes, we can do the soul work. But until the conscious mind and the subconscious mind and the soul can all get together and say, this is a problem, we need to fix it, then it'll likely continue.
So does that also suggest the idea that SRT can be used to identify, yes, there is a medication that it's in the way and that it's this medication, or is that beyond what SRT can do?
It can. I think it can, but we are strongly advised not to do that
For legal reasons.
Because there's serious ethical and issues with that. In fact, we have
I would think so.
The SRA has an ethics committee that addresses that directly. I mean, we are under no circumstances doctors,
right?
Or and we are forbidden from offering medical advice of any kind if it's outside of our field. So I'm very careful that when I'm with a client and they're on medications, I know what those medications are and what they do. And again, I'm saying, with the combination of medications may be a major cause of the insomnia. And if that's the case, there's not a whole lot we can do without getting off the medications. And I would not dare to suggest you get off the medications because that's a decision you need to make with your doctor.
Right.
Right.
Okay. What do you think, Alyx? What have we done? Have we made progress? Has this been good?
Yeah, it's been a good experience.
Okay.
And now I understand what SRT is.
Yeah, me too. We're both learning quite a bit here. That's for sure.
That's great.
So, good. Well, thank you, Bill, for sharing all that. I'm not sure what we'll be working on next week, but this has been a good 5-week plan here that we've been on, trying to understand.
Number 6. This is actually number 6.
Number 6 is it? Okay. I forgot what the count was, but that's okay. So good. Yeah. So thank you for leading us through this. Thank you to our live stream audience. I want to remind people too, before we go, if you're not a subscriber, become a subscriber. Got the links in there. If you can't find links, go to the homepage, loatoday.net. And that's all I'm going to say about it because we're out of time. But thank you to our live stream audience. Thank you to our podcast listeners as well. And we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.